Welcome to an Odyssey in Mixology. This is the second part of my segment on spicy cocktails. In this video, I'm using spicy ingredients to enhance 3 cocktails that require a bit more effort than the simple margaritas I made in the previous part. Enjoy. Most of the drinks for these medium complexity cocktail videos are my own creations or variations of existing drinks that are different enough that I'm okay calling them my own. With how many cocktail recipes there are, there's always going to be people working towards the same or a very similar recipe. If I take and show a recipe on this channel that I didn't have a hand in creating, then I'll always give credit to where I found it. Now, defining a medium complexity cocktail is a little bit arbitrary because it's based off of experience and access to ingredients. To me, a medium complexity cocktail is one that requires a bit more preparation than simply juicing a lime, or one that needs more than a few easily measured and common ingredients. To give an example, a Negroni is a simple cocktail. It's hands down one of my favorite classic cocktails, but my favorite Negroni riff uses a jasmine tea-infused mezcal, cynar, vermouth, celery bitters, and a bit of grapefruit. This is a medium complexity drink. This just requires a bit more preparation and precision to create. The second part of these segments will be a little more focused on the cocktail side. We've already looked at how to apply spicy ingredients in a few different ways. Now we're going to take the difficulty up a notch. We're going to see how we can apply some of the same spicy methods used in the first part in 3 different ways with a bit more complexity in the flavors. With that in mind, I'm basing this first spicy drink around a passion fruit liqueur called Chinola. As far as fruit-flavored liqueurs go, Chinola is incredible. It's produced in the Dominican Republic, and unlike most other passion fruit things you can eat or drink, it's 100% natural and doesn't use any artificial flavoring. If you like passion fruit, this is as close to the fresh fruit as you can get. If you don't like passion fruit, then you probably won't like this for that sole reason. It can be a bit hard to mix based on how potent the passion fruit flavor is, but for around $30, it's hard to beat as far as quality goes. As with all potent fruit liqueurs, Chinola works best if you lean into the flavor rather than trying to take the spotlight away. Now, passion fruit by itself will make a killer drink, but adding orange will give depth to this singular flavor. In addition to the orange, lime will give more tanginess and citrusy and take it one step further. Now, this same mindset works with a lot of different drinks, especially ones that are fruit forward. For example, strawberry forward drinks are usually a very prominent flavor. A lot of it is artificial, but when you get a natural strawberry flavored drink, you can expand that cocktail by adding fresh cranberry juice, lime juice, maybe even a bit of mint. As a general rule of thumb, you can expand flavors by using a citrus as well as a different fruit that has some of the same characteristics of the fruit you're trying to accentuate. The best way to learn is to just play around with combinations and have a bit of fun with it. But when in doubt, similarly colored fruits or ingredients have higher chances of working together. This is just a bit of a weird coincidence, and it doesn't always work, but it's the first thing I try when I get stuck in creating a new drink, which happens all the time. Anyways, back to the cocktail. For this drink's spice components, I chose Bitterman's Habanero Hellfire bitters. These are packed with a deep, full-bodied, and tangy habanero flavor. Hellfire is also a pretty accurate description for the spice level too. These are hot, and I usually use 2 or 3 dashes in a normal spicy cocktail. This flavor profile pairs so much better with the passion fruit and orange than a jalapeno or green spice would. The habanero flavor reduces some of the brightness in the drink. If I had to be a bit dramatic, I'd say it gives the flavor of the overall drink a bit more of a darker edge. If you don't already have the Habanero Hellfire bitters in your home bar, then you should definitely pick it up. For the price, you get a fantastic quality bitter, and it's very versatile in a lot of these fruit-forward drinks. To start this drink, I'm going to use a Blanco tequila or a mezcal. Passion fruits have small dark seeds, so the chia seeds used here as a garnish just makes this drink stand out. This is a great drink for a lot of reasons. The cool thing about it is that each ingredient is very important to the final flavor. Other than the chia seeds as a garnish here, there's no fluff. The orange juice and the lime round out the passion fruit liqueur and add just a ton of depth. These three ingredients and the mint does take it a bit into the tropical drink territory, but the tequila and the mezcal, coupled with the habanero flavor, brings it right back into something that toes the line between tropical or not. It smells amazing, it's perfectly balanced, and you can really tailor the heat based on your personal preferences by adding a few more bitters. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, I think there's very few substitutes for fresh squeezed juice. Pre-squeezed lime juice you can usually get away with because it's acting more as the citrus rather than the flavoring in a lot of cases. Orange juice is different because store-bought orange juice versus fresh squeezed orange juice is a completely different flavor profile, and I highly recommend you squeezing your own oranges, especially when orange is such a prominent feature of this drink. Now, a Blanco tequila or a mezcal both work great here. My preference is always mezcal, but the tequila has gone over better when I've made this drink for my friends. I think it's more accessible, a little bit more user-friendly. Regardless, the cocktail will still taste fantastic. The mezcal just will make it a little bit more smoky to enhance some of the spicy notes. As you saw in the first video, this is a cocktail overview slide that has the recipe, flavor profile, and some extra info on the drink. The overviews will always show up again at the end of my videos, so you don't have to go searching for them. The El Dorado is a straightforward, well-proportioned cocktail with a lot of depth and emphasis on the passion fruit flavor. It's not overly sweet, sour, or spicy, and it expands the passion fruit to create a vibrant complexity in each sip. For the next spicy drink, I went back and forth on a few different ones. A lot of the drinks on my cocktail Excel sheet fall into the medium complexity category, and my favorite category of cocktails is spicy ones, so there's a disproportionate amount of ones to choose from. That being said, I eventually settled on a spicy coffee martini, even though I wanted to save that for a future segment on coffee cocktails. Coffee martinis usually fall into the simple category of drinks. They're usually made with vodka, coffee liqueur, espresso, and a pinch of salt. Some people use cream or coffee cream liqueurs like Kahlua, but the primary flavor of a coffee martini is, you guessed it, coffee. Now, this is a very standard and, in my opinion, decent coffee liqueur. Other coffee liqueurs like St. George's Nola coffee liqueur have a bit of extra depth in their flavor because they add things like vanilla, cinnamon, and other spices. But there's a lot of ways to make a really good coffee martini more interesting without using higher end liqueur. To name a few, it's really fun to experiment with chocolate bitters, walnut bitters, cinnamon, pecan, or other nut liqueurs, amaros, mint, spice. They're all fairly easy to add if you have the right ingredients. For a spicy coffee martini, I want to use a darker heat than the green heat that I use in margaritas. The habanero Hellfire bitters can work here if you want to lean to some of the more sour notes people associate with fresh espresso. For my drink, I want to bring out more of a roasted full flavor because I'm also going to add a few other ingredients to it. For a coffee-based drink, the original Ancho Reyes chili liqueur is my go-to. As I mentioned last time, Ancho Reyes' line of spicy liqueurs are readily available, reasonably priced at around $32, and of very good quality. This liqueur is also my go-to when I want to add spice to any whiskey or añejo tequila drink. Even though we're using a coffee liqueur, the espresso that you use for a coffee martini is equally as important. Now, I did a comparison between Trader Joe's dark roast espresso and some higher-end imported Salento coffee beans. You really don't need something ultra fancy for this drink to work, so use what you like as long as the espresso is fresh and full-bodied. The next new ingredient to the standard coffee martini template is going to be an Amaro. I'm choosing Amaro Averna because I think it's one of the more balanced Amaros on the market. The reason I'm using an Amaro is because the inherent herbal bitterness of this type of alcohol is going to pair really nicely with the coffee and the spicy liqueur. The first step in making this drink is to use a lemon wedge to coat part of the martini glass's rim. This allows a small amount of smoked chipotle powder to stick to it. It is hot, so I usually leave at least half of the rim uncoated. This is just so you're not forced to taste the extra heat with every sip, even if it's my preference to do so. It's really good. This all comes together to create a really vibrant and full coffee taste. It's less of a drink to throw back to stay awake on a Friday night, and more a drink to savor, especially if you're using nice ingredients. The smoked chipotle rim can be a bit hot, especially when you get particles kind of lasting after you finish your sip, but it goes with a cocktail really nice, and it's absolutely worth stocking up on the ingredients in your home bar. Not only will they come in handy for other cocktails, but this drink will blow most other coffee martinis out of the water. There are many coffee martini variations out there, but this is a version I came up with to try and build upon the regular coffee flavor a bit more than most. Adding Amaro to a coffee martini isn't that uncommon, but the Cocora Cafe takes it further by layering the ancho chili liqueur, the chocolate bitters, and the smoked chipotle powder to bring out even more of a full-bodied flavor. It's extremely smooth and almost silky in texture. It's one of my favorite drinks of all time, not because it's groundbreaking, because it's just a really good coffee martini with a perfectly incorporated twist. So this last spicy cocktail is one that I started messing around with after trying the Culture Vulture cocktail found in the Encyclopedia of Cocktails published by Cider Mill. It's a pumpkin seed orgeat cocktail made with mezcal, lime, and a heavy dose of Angostura bitters. Now, I added Cholula to this and it was fantastic. This is also where it gets a bit cloudy, because after I'd added Cholula to the Culture Vulture, messed around with the ratios a little bit, and named it the Firecracker, I came across a video from Anders Ericsson, who I really like to watch, and he made a cocktail called See No Evil. Now, it's similar to the Culture Vulture with his own twist on it, but it does include hot sauce, and it is a little bit more similar to mine than the Culture Vulture that I based mine off of. Now, because of this, I can't take credit for it, even though I put my own little twist on it. But I think you should try it because it's a really interesting cocktail, and it might not be something you've come across before. It's probably not an everyday drink, or even a drink that you'd have a few times in a night. But a few days ago, I came home with a few dripping birria tacos, and I whipped this drink up when I got back. It was an awesome combination when I wasn't in the mood for a margarita. Now, this drink will really lean into the flavor profile of whatever hot sauce you put into it. My default is usually Cholula because I really like the tanginess to it, not to mention it's easy, it's affordable, it's everywhere. Now, there are a lot of really interesting hot sauces out there, and a lot of them can be used to make really cool variations on this drink because the hot sauce is so forward. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to stick with the Cholula. The hot sauce and lime will cover up a lot of the nuanced flavor from an expensive, more unique mezcal. 9 times out of 10, I use 400 Conejos or Banjes as my wells. So this is the Firecracker. It is very smoke and spice forward, but the nutmeg and orgeat add a not so subtle nuttiness that you'd think would clash with the Cholula. The flavors actually remain a bit distinct from each other, and that gives this drink a fun twist and some really surprising vibrancy to the flavor. This is a very good drink, especially if you're a fan of spicy margaritas and are looking to change things up a bit. In fact, this is actually the drink that caused me to start reevaluating hot sauce as a cocktail ingredient. I'll say that the way I have this proportion leaves it a bit on the sour and tangy side. You can up the orgeat if you want to make it a little bit more sweet, a little bit more nutty. That's totally fine, and you should play with the recipes to see what works best for you. Now, from the hot sauce standpoint, it works so much better here than in the spicy margarita with the green pepper version I made in the last video. Here, it's incorporated into the total flavor of the drink, rather than just as a standalone flavor against a margarita backdrop. The main intrigue of the Firecracker is to balance between the nutmeg and orgeat nuttiness and the sharp kick from both the lime and the Cholula. Even though it shares many of the same or similar ingredients to a margarita, you'd never confuse the two. This is definitely a drink that stands on its own 2 feet. It manages to turn the hot sauce into a bright, fresh flavor that the mezcal and nuttiness can be bounced off of. So is it really worth buying a sweetener that's 2 to 3 times more than the budget version? When it comes to simple syrup, I'd say the answer is no. But for orgeat, the answer is definitely yes. There are drinks where you don't want as prominent an orgeat flavor, but you want to keep the sweetness level up. In that case, the budget versions usually work well here because they're extremely sweet and the flavor is a little more subtle. Now, unfortunately, even though the flavor is a bit more subtle, it's usually much more artificial, and that does show through, especially in a cocktail like this, where you have so few ingredients. If you enjoyed this video, then feel free to subscribe. But if you're still on the fence, then check out my next video, where I'll go through the process to create a brand new, complicated, spicy cocktail from scratch. Thank you for watching.